Route 47 bus driver Marcus drove the same route every morning, at the same time, with the same silence. Passengers thought he was just an ordinary worker, until that day when a fight broke out on the bus, and a young Navy soldier noticed the faded tattoo on his neck. That mark was a symbol carried by only one group of people, and Marcus's true identity would silence the entire bus. Welcome to Human Tales. Before we begin this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These stories matter. Every morning at exactly 6:30 a.m., Marcus Wilson took his place behind the wheel of Chicago Transit Authority's Route 47. For 15 years, he had repeated the same routine, sipping his coffee and checking the motor controls, then putting on that familiar blue uniform, opening the door, and welcoming the day's first passengers. Marcus wasn't a talkative man. He'd say, "Good morning, thank you, and have a good day." That was it. Passengers knew him only as Route 47's reliable driver, someone who was never late, never harsh, who quietly did his job. But no one had ever wondered about his past. No one asked why he never wore a wedding ring, why he was always alone, why he sometimes stared into the distance. And certainly no one thought about why he always kept his collar folded up, covering his neck. That Tuesday morning was like any other. At 7:45 a.m., passengers began boarding from Michigan Avenue. Office workers heading to work, university students, and that morning, a young man in military uniform. Marine Tyler Rodriguez was a 23-year-old Marine returning from weekend leave. He was carrying a large backpack and looked tired. When boarding the bus, he had said, "Good morning, sir," to Marcus, and Marcus had nodded slightly and said, "Good morning," as always. Tyler took a seat in the middle of the bus. With a habit instilled by military discipline, he was observing his surroundings. Who was sitting where? Who looked normal if there were any suspicious situations? Such observations were as natural to him as breathing. As the bus headed toward State Street, tension began between two men sitting in the front. One was Dave Miller, a middle-aged man who apparently had a fight with his wife for coming home late. The other was Jake Patterson, someone young and irritable-looking. Dave was talking loudly on the phone. "Sarah, I told you, the meeting ran over. I didn't want to be late, either." Jake shouted from behind, "Hang up the phone. Everyone doesn't have to hear your fight." Dave turned. "What's it to you, buddy? Mind your own business." Voices began to rise. Other passengers started getting uncomfortable. Some began to get up. Others started looking at the driver. Marcus was watching the situation through the rearview mirror. His 15 years of experience told him how these situations could develop, but he didn't intervene yet. While waiting, he noticed that Tyler was also watching the situation. Jake stood up and started walking toward Dave. "I told you to hang up that phone. Who are you to give me orders?" Dave also stood up. That's when the situation got out of control. Jake tried to push Dave and make him drop his phone. Dave lost his balance and fell onto the elderly lady next to him. The woman screamed. Tyler reflexively stood up, but Marcus was faster. He slowly pulled the bus to the side, pulled the handbrake, and stood up. The fluidity of his movement, the determination in his body language caught Tyler's attention. Marcus didn't run, didn't shout. He just walked. "Gentlemen," Marcus said, his voice calm but authoritative, "let's sit down." Jake turned. "Don't interfere, old man. This doesn't concern you." Marcus stepped between Jake and Dave. Tyler was watching carefully. There was something different about Marcus's stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, hands at his sides but ready, body weight distributed forward. This was a military stance. "Brother," Marcus turned to Jake, "there's no fighting on my bus. Sit down, please." Jake tried to touch Marcus. "I'm telling you." Marcus's reflex was so fast that even Tyler was surprised. He gently but effectively controlled Jake's hand, changed his position, and sat Jake down in his seat. The movement was so professional that Jake couldn't understand what happened. "Now let's calm down," Marcus turned to Dave. "You sit down too." Everyone calmed down. Dave grumbled, but sat down. Jake looked at Marcus in bewilderment, but didn't make a sound. As Marcus returned to the driver's seat, Tyler caught something from his neck. The collar had shifted during the movement, and a corner of a tattoo was visible. Tyler squinted and looked more carefully. He recognized that mark. Faded, its color worn away by years, but definitely familiar. Marine Recon insignia, and below it, very faint but visible, Semper Fi inscription. Tyler's heart raced. This wasn't possible. Was the ordinary bus driver in front of him from Marine Recon? Marine Recon, one of the most elite units of the Marines, sent on the most dangerous missions. One of the units about which legends were told in Tyler's training camp. The bus returned to normal. The journey continued. But Tyler was now watching Marcus with different eyes. His way of intervening in the fight, his body language, that calmness. These didn't come from training. They came from experience. Tyler replayed Marcus's previous movements in his mind. The way he controlled Jake's hand was close-quarters combat technique. His way of positioning was the reflex of someone with combat experience. Tyler would get off in a few stops, but now he was dying of curiosity. Was Marcus really from Marine Recon? How could someone from such an important unit end up driving buses in Chicago? When the bus started to empty, Tyler stayed as the last person to get off. "Sir," Tyler approached Marcus, "your way of handling yesterday's fight was very professional." Marcus looked at Tyler through the rearview mirror. "Thank you. It's a job. I've been doing this for 15 years. Do you have military background?" Marcus's hand slightly tensed on the steering wheel. There was a brief silence. "In the past, yes." Tyler carefully, "Were you a Marine?" This time Marcus stopped completely. He looked at Tyler for a long time through the rear-view mirror. He evaluated Tyler's uniform, his stance, the seriousness of his questions. "What unit are you in, son?" "Marine Corps, 2nd Battalion." Marcus nodded. "Good unit?" "What unit were you in, sir?" A long silence. Marcus took a deep breath. "Force Recon." "Long time ago." Tyler's world shook. Force Recon, the Marine Corps' most elite unit tasked with the most secret operations. These men were legends. "How long did you serve?" 12 years. 1998 to 2010, Tyler calculated. This was the hottest period of Iraq and Afghanistan. "Which operations?" Marcus raised his hand. "Son, those days are behind me. Now I'm just a bus driver." But Tyler didn't give up. "Sir, leaving Force Recon to become a bus driver, this isn't a normal career change." Marcus was silent for a long time. Then he slowly turned his head and looked at Tyler. There was deep fatigue in his eyes. "Sometimes a man has to leave his past behind, son. But why? Someone with your experience could do so much in the military field." Marcus with a bitter smile. "Tyler, your name is Tyler, right? Sometimes war takes a lot from a man. I built a new life with what I had left." Tyler couldn't contain his curiosity. "What happened? Were you wounded?" Marcus's eyes briefly clouded. "Physical wounds heal, son. The others, they take a little more time." Although the bus had stopped, neither of them was talking. Tyler understood that there was much greater pain in the depths of Marcus's story. "Why did you leave in 2010? Marcus took a deep breath. "On my last mission, we lost 3 men from my team. I was the commander. I made the decisions." Tyler's breath caught. Command responsibility, survivor's guilt. These were very heavy burdens in elite units like Force Recon. Sir, that wasn't your fault, wasn't it? Marcus's voice hardened. I sent them on that mission. I determined the route. I wrote letters to their families. Silence filled the bus. Tyler understood the weight of the burden Marcus carried. What happened after that? After that, PTSD treatment, therapy, medications, but none of it brought Rebecca back. Rebecca, my wife. She waited for me for 12 years, worried about every mission for 12 years. But when I returned, I wasn't the old Marcus anymore. She couldn't handle it either. Tyler now understood that scratch mark on Marcus's finger. When did you divorce? In 2012, after treatment. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I moved to Chicago, a city where I didn't know anyone. A fresh start. Tyler's eyes welled up. And you started driving buses. I started working at CTA, a quiet, routine job that didn't require much talking to people. Exactly what I needed. But don't you ever miss it? That adrenaline, the teamwork? A sad smile appeared on Marcus's face. I miss it every day, son. But some things are meant to stay in the past. Tyler was trying to digest Marcus's story. In front of him was a Force Recon commander, but right now he was just a tired, wounded man. Sir, your experience is very valuable. You could help other veterans dealing with PTSD. Marcus nodded. I tried. I volunteered at VA hospitals for a couple of years, but I realized I couldn't help others without healing my own wound. How are you now? Better. Much better. I continue therapy. I take my medications. And this job gives me peace. Tyler was surprised. Driving buses gives you peace? Every day I safely transport hundreds of people. I take them to their homes, jobs, to their loved ones, and this is also a kind of mission. Tyler had never thought of this perspective, and no one knows who you are. They don't need to know. I'm Marcus, bus driver. This identity is enough for me. Tyler stood up. Marcus, sir, it was an honor to meet you. Marcus also stood up and extended his hand to Tyler. Tyler, you're a good soldier. But remember, your military identity doesn't define you. Who you are, that's what matters. Tyler, while shaking hands, this conversation was very valuable to me. For me too, son. As Tyler got off the bus, he turned. Marcus, sir, will you be on the same bus tomorrow? Marcus smiled. I've been here every day for 15 years, Tyler. I'll be here tomorrow too. The next day, Tyler boarded the bus. Marcus said, good morning, as always. Tyler responded the same way. But now there was a different bond between them. During the journey, Tyler observed Marcus. Now he saw the professionalism in his movements, his patient attitude toward passengers, his calmness in the face of difficulties with different eyes. This ordinary bus driver was actually a hero. But his heroism was no longer on the battlefield, it was within daily life. That day, Tyler told his friends about Marcus's story, but this time with a different tone. Guys, there's something I learned yesterday. Real heroes don't always walk around in uniform. Sometimes we see them as bus drivers, as teachers, as farmers. Their value doesn't come from what they did in the past, but from what they do today. And Marcus, he continued to take his place at the head of Route 47 every morning at 6:30 a.m. No one saw him differently, and no one needed to, because Marcus no longer derived his identity from his Force Recon past. He derived it from safely transporting hundreds of people every day, from his calm and patient attitude, from making peace with his past. This was real strength, being at peace with your past and doing your best in your current role. If this story was meaningful to you, let us know in the comments. Subscribe to Human Tales, because real hero stories deserve to be told. See you in the next video.